Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Wolfpack Podcast. I'm your host, Wolfbite, and today we're going to be going over a ton of stuff that came in the new update and my opinions on it and what I think about it and what I think could get changed, what I think is good, and stuff like that. So, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Starr Drops, new brawlers, the balance changes, and one or two other things. So, we do have quite a bit to go through. But then at the end of each segment, I'm going to be rating whatever I am talking about. And then at the end of the episode, I'm going to give the entire update a rating as a whole. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Let's get straight into it. So let's start off with the biggest and key feature of this update, which is Starr Drops. A few things that I thought that were good about them is that you're able to unlock cosmetics. Like, that may not sound like a lot, and it really isn't a lot, but people are very, very excited about that, including me. Like, it's way more fun to be able to get a pin than even get something like 1,000 gold, even though the pin isn't really going to do anything to progress your profile. It's just something you can use, or maybe even never use. But it still is fun to get, if you know what I mean. So I'm happy that they did take a good portion of the bling that you got from other places and moved it to whatever it's called, Starr Drops. And talking about moving progression, they moved a lot of this progression straight from Club League to Starr Drops, which I think was completely fair because before this update, you could get something like 30% of your progression came from Club League if you're in a Masters Club. And that was just too much. Like, yes, it's free progression if you're in a Masters Club, but a lot of people just don't have a club or don't have the time to play Club League or stuff like that. But mostly the problem was that people just weren't able to get into a Masters Club. And if you were, even if you had like no trophies and you got into a Masters Club, you're getting a ton of rewards. And people that were in Masters and much lower clubs, but they're much more skilled at the game and play more, they're not getting as many rewards, which I guess is fine. But I'm very glad that they nerfed that progression from Club League and moved it over to Starr Drops. That is a very, very fitting thing to take it from and put it to. And then the fact that you actually have to click 4 times to upgrade it is awesome. Like, I know it does absolutely nothing. It's just the same as opening it up and say if you get a mythic, you get a mythic, and it shows it right away. But it's just a visual feature. Like, I found that visual features in games, it makes unlocking stuff so much more fun. For example, in a Supercell beta game that was just out recently, Flood Rush, you just had this little boat that like went up through this river or ocean, and there were little islands on it, and you collected your progression on the islands, and it was like so much more fun than collecting something in Clash Royale because you just open a box in Clash Royale. But overall, it's a really cool feature that you actually have to click it 4 times to unlock it because it gives like huge hype as to what you're going to get, and you don't know if you're going to get it, and you're like, come on, upgrade, and it does upgrade, and then upgrades again, and then you're like, please upgrade one more time, and it doesn't. And it's just fun. It builds up a lot of hype for the rewards instead of just the old feature of boxes where you just open it and you get it immediately. And then a few things that I thought were bad about Starr Drops. First of all, they feel kind of forced as to when you open them. So you have to open them as soon as you leave a match. Like, yes, you can play again and for a whole bunch of times to unlock all 3 of them at a time, but that really doesn't do much. You still have to open them as soon as you leave the match. So it's like you leave the match, you're like, oh, I got a Starr Drop. Well, I guess I'm opening it, which is fine. But being able to save them like you used to be able to save boxes would be so much more fun, in my opinion, because you're able to save them up for a long time, then open like 100 of them at the same time. And like for months, you can be saving up these things, just waiting and waiting, and knowing that you're gonna get this huge prize of opening up all these things at the end. And I enjoy that experience a lot better than being forced to open my rewards right away. I tend to save just about everything in games or in real life or whatever. So that would be a feature that I would really like. And then the second thing that I don't really like about them, it like loads a little bit before you open them, which I assume is just a server thing, like it has to calculate what you're getting or whatnot. But it would be really nice if that wasn't there, because you have all of this hype from getting the rewards, upgrading your thing, and then once you open it, it's like loading, 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 and all of that hype kind of just dies off. So it would be really nice if they were to fix that at some point. I know it may be really hard to fix if it's server side stuff or whatnot, but it would be really nice if it was much quicker to load. So overall, I'm going to give Starr Drops a 8 out of 10. I think they really did a good job on like the whole UI in total and where they took the rewards from. They did a really good job on that. I think they just need one or few to more finishing touches, especially being able to save them would be really nice. So hopefully they add that in the next update. I would actually assume they do in the next update or two. I know a lot of people have been asking for that. So moving on to the next topic. So the new brawlers, neither of these brawlers have been released yet, so I haven't been able to play them. I believe Cordelius with the new season comes out in 2 days, so I can play him then. I've only been able to try to play him in Training Cave in the training match, but the concepts of both of these brawlers is just amazing. I especially like Cordelius, where it puts you into a 1v1, and there's like so many ways his super can be used. Is it balanced? I have no idea. Is it gonna actually be fun in game? Yes, it's gonna be fun. Is it gonna be competitive like correctly, and is it gonna be completely broken? I have no idea, and that's really hard to tell. But I really love the idea of the super. His main kit, this like his main attack and gadgets and star powers are kind of like mid tier to what they've been putting out recently. But his super is really the big part of him, which is actually the same for both of these brawlers coming out. But one thing I did see and that I hope they will address soon is that if you use Doug in Showdown, or not Doug, Cordelius in Showdown, and you team with someone, you can use your super, put him into the shadow dimension, and then cycle your super, use it again, put him in the keep him in the shadow dimension, and then you can just keep doing that with this other person you're teaming with, and no one else can see you or hit you or anything. So you're just stuck in the shadow dimension with one other person until the match ends. And it looks like it is a little bit tricky to pull off. Maybe if you had like a Frank or something that you're teaming with, it would be fine. But I really hope they do address that before he comes out, or at least soon after he comes out, because that is not going to be a fun experience. And they could even do something like um, reduce the time that is super keeps someone in the shadow realm when you use it while you're in the shadow realm. And by that I mean if like you're cycling supers, each time you use it as a shorter time limit, just so that they can't keep cycling and then never and always stay in the shadow realm. And then Doug, he has a really cool super, and that's just about it. I mean, his main attack, yes, it can heal people, but it's very similar to Jackie, and it just seems kind of boring. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be completely different in game, but his super is really unique and fun, and I can't wait to actually play him and unlock him. So that's my thoughts on those brawlers. So overall, I'm going to give them a 7.5 out of 10 because they have very good supers, amazing concepts, but their normal attacks are just decent. And then the Phoenix Crow remodel. I just want to talk about this briefly, but this skin looks very, I don't know, unique or different to me right now, just because it's new, but it does look cool. And I'm probably not going to buy it because I'm not a free to play anymore. I spent $50 once, but I can't spend my gems on anything but Brawl Pass because it's just not worth it. But I have the feeling that the skin is definitely going to grow on me, and it already seems cool. So, like before, I really didn't like Captain Crow when it came out. It looks like terrible. And after a few months, it's really started to grow on me, and it looks like an actually really cool skin right now. Like the movement still is a little bit weird, but very little things. But I like it a lot more now that it's been in the game a while. And I think that's going to be the same thing for Phoenix Crow, and I hope it is. And also, the skin is kind of bugged right now. If you jump, like use your super or go over a jump pad, there's like 3 different versions of Crow. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, there's like Phoenix Crow on top, normal Crow on bottom, and then like some Crow in the middle. It's really funny. If you haven't, I would test it in game if it isn't fixed by the time this podcast comes out. So overall, I'm going to give the Phoenix Crow remodel a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's a really well polished rework. I'm just not completely used to it yet. And then the balance changes. The last things I wanted to talk about today. So I am completely behind the star power and gadget changes. Like, I believe they did a really good job with quite a few of them. And yeah, we've been awaiting them a long time. I actually was not expecting them to come out this update because we just had balance changes at the beginning of the last seasons, then balance changes in the middle, and now we're getting even more balance changes. So I really didn't expect that. I expected it to be much smaller in balance changes. So I'm really glad that they are finally addressing some of these star powers and gadgets, and I hope that they continue to do that as time goes on. But the other things that happened, Maisie did get a buff. She got a increased projectile speed. The gadget direction is forward now, and the star power went from 10% to 20% damage reduction at max, or damage bonus, excuse me, at max range. So Maisie definitely needed a buff, and she was one of my favorite brawlers before even the update came out. She's even better now, so I like her even more. But she definitely deserved it. It was way too hard to hit her shots, especially in competitive where people are able to see where it's going and dodge it. Even now, it's going to be decently easy to dodge her shots, but that's kind of the point of Maisie. As far as the gadget direction changing, I kind of liked it the way it was. Like, most times, you would move your movement stick the other way and then hit the gadget to go forwards. Like, you're almost always using it to go forwards. So I kind of understand why they changed that, but I did like that little extra skill that it took to use the gadget correctly. And then the final thing is the Hank nerf, or should I say nerfs. I really don't think these were needed at all. I think he was decently balanced before this whatever balance changes. But his star power went from 20% to 10% extra speed when his bubble is fully charged, which is a big hit to him. I mean, that's how he catching up on opponents is the way he was able to hit his bubble in the first place. So I think that did a good deal to him because that's cut in half. That's a huge nerf. And then you can also see Hank in bushes when he is blowing his bubble, which is, it is kind of expected. But a nerf that they didn't list, but is in game, I'm pretty sure it's not a bug. But Hank doesn't heal when he's charging his bubble anymore, and this is really, really bad for him because he has to wait a whole 4 seconds to heal up, and then he has to wait to charge his bubble. So that's just more and more time that he isn't able to put out his bubble, and that's really what's been hurting him recently. And he's almost completely unplayable, especially in competitive at this point. So I don't really like the Hank nerfs. I thought he was actually decently fine before the change, except for being able to not see him while he's in bushes and charging his bubble. But the rest of the balance changes were pretty good. Except for some of the top brawlers did escape nerfs, like Crow. He's been really good in the meta, and Shelly's been pretty good as well. A lot of those people did escape nerfs, but it's kind of expected. We did have a balance change just a month ago. Yeah, a month ago. So this is going to change up the meta quite a bit with all the star power and gadget changes. So I completely understand that they just don't have enough resources to do all the star powers and gadgets and balance all the brawlers as well, which makes sense. So I'm going to give the update as a whole a 8.5 out of 10 rating, which is pretty good for my standards. I think they did a really good job with this update. There's just a few small things that they could have done a little bit better. Well, that is the end of the episode. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out another podcast episode before fall comes and my schedule changes, but until then, I will see you. God bless.